Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Our Two Cents on Your Dollars. I'm James Enriquez. That's James Credo, Alexis Villarreal, and Leo Chang.
How you doing?
So today, I thought we'd talk about financial planning, what it is, because I think a lot of times people are confused. They'll have an investment portfolio, and they
Right.
think they're doing financial planning.
FP?
Yes, FP.
Well, FP, it's an ongoing process and service. It's collaborative in nature. It's holistic, and what you're trying to do is, when you're looking at the client's objectives, you're trying to make sure that you're giving them the best possible potential and reaching those objectives that they've shared with you. And it's holistic in nature because you're trying to look at the cause and effects of your recommendations. And so it's ongoing because clients, with their situation, things change, and you have to adapt and make changes and make sure they're still on track. So that's what financial planning to me is.
I don't know. I feel like it's like the blood work of the whole financial process for them. I feel like a lot of times individuals don't have an idea of where they're at, so it's kind of a starting point when you start going through their basic information. When you're trying to help somebody, they have things, they're doing things, they have life in place, kids, whatever, businesses, work, and they really don't have an idea. They know they want to go somewhere, but they don't know how to get there. And I feel like when you start going down this process with them, right, you kind of help outlining how to do it, right? So.
Yeah, it's our bread and butter. I really do feel like it's something from a personal aspect, something I gravitated towards and shifted towards mindset-wise, paradigm-wise, probably about 5 years ago, and just understanding the landscape in the industry that we're working in, and how, especially after 2020, when a lot of the robo-advisors and those online investing platforms got so popularized, I really started to understand and realize that space, just the investment space, was becoming so diluted and really simplified, and from a cost efficiency aspect too, right? That it made me realize, hey, for us to provide true value, we have to go above and beyond just the investment piece. And knowing that there's still that huge part when it comes to financial services of the planning, of the tax planning, of the retirement planning, the long-term insurance and protection, estate planning, business owner-wise, all the intricacies when it comes to running a business and how to do it efficiently and how to maximize that as well too. All of those are such big pieces to a lot of individuals' overall picture, and most people want to outsource that. They need to outsource that. They don't know, they don't know what they don't know. And so understanding that and realize that's where our value can be is what helps shift my mind to, hey, this is really what we need to focus on. This is where we need to put our resources in. This is where we need to take the time and energy and really say, okay, how do we differentiate ourselves to continue to educate, continue to evolve and grow, to be able to provide more services, more value for clients, not just the investing piece.
Okay, so I'm curious. I would like to try to give our viewers a more direct answer on what is financial planning. You made an interesting comment. You said, to me, that is what financial planning is.
Right.
So I think further validating the point that financial planning has become this nebulous term that nobody really knows what the meaning of it is. So if y'all had to come to a consensus on what financial planning is, what would you say it is?
I think it's just understanding the client's situation, and it is hard to kind of explain it because you actually have to experience it as a client. And for example, everyone mentions financial planning. The largest firms want to mention financial planning. Prospective clients like to mention, I want a financial planning service. But the most common question I typically get from a prospective client is, what kind of rate of return do I get? And so I feel like there's a disconnect in terms of what is financial planning and what are aspects of financial planning. because to me, I can run different scenarios of what your rate of return should be based on how you're allocated, but it does not answer, is it enough for your objective? And so to me, that's what financial planning is. It answers those questions. Are you on track to reach your objectives? And what do we need to do to get closer, if not, reach it?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe this is an oversimplification, but I think financial planning is reaching your financial goals.
Right.
I used to have a saying that nobody buys an investment, well, nobody buys a shovel because they want a shovel. They buy a shovel because they need a hole.
Yeah.
So nobody buys an investment because they want an investment. They're trying to reach some kind of financial goal.
Right.
So what is that financial goal?
Right.
And then we back into investments. So can you all give me some examples of what some of your clients' financial goals are, or even prospective clients? Like, what do you hear people saying, like, oh, that's a financial goal of mine?
Even things like life insurance, for example. You can look at that and say to yourself, I'm just going to go buy life insurance. And in my career, it's kind of funny when the life insurance policies that I see and I review on my desk, they tend to have the same death benefit across the board, irrespective of the client's situation. And so I've always thought, why do they keep coming with the same death benefit? So even insurance is financial planning. Everyone's situation is different. Not everyone should have the same death benefit. You have, like you said, you have to back into it. Who are you trying to protect? Why? For how long? Do you even need life insurance to begin with? Why are you buying life insurance? Are there some options at work? Can we supplement those? So even something as as simple as life insurance, financial planning can have a big impact.
I think you're trying to get with is, I think most goals are, right, do I need life insurance? How much life insurance do I need?
Right.
Retirement planning, college savings, long-term care, Social Security, how am I going to do an estate transfer? How am I going to sell a business? When do I apply for Medicare? What benefits do I go? So, I mean, financial planning is not just one thing, right? It's a lot of things. And I think most people kind of go with the simple thing as financial planning is, when can I retire? And that's it. And that's everything is based, everyone that is helping in some shape or another, as long as they're doing that, they're doing some sort of financial planning without really taking all of those other nuances into consideration.
Yeah, there's another big part of it, and this is actually a big part of the CFP testing now, is the emotional and psychological part of financial planning as well too.
What is CFP?
CFP is Certified Financial Planning. It's your Certified Financial Planner. It's a board designation that is taken by an individual to certify an individual as a professional financial planner. And it's there's multiple parts to receiving the designation. You have to qualify through different sectional testing, and then you take a proctored exam covering different domains. There's actually 7 different domains that are covered in the proctored exam for you to qualify for that specific designation. And recently, over the past couple of years, they've added the emotional and psychological aspect to that testing, because that's such a big part of planning now, is understanding the client from that emotional aspect, right? Understanding the individual's psychological background, what their comfort level is, understanding risk, understanding what that means to them emotionally, and then helping them manage expectations, helping them manage changes in market, changes in environment, helping them, see through that, and providing a sounding board, being a resource, and helping them through all those pieces as well, not just on the concrete number side. And so that's another big piece that I think is not taken into account when you think about paying for a financial planning service and what comes with that. So.
Yeah, a quick little side note. I've done some volunteer work for the CFP board, and I earned my CFP designation, I think, back in 2016. And back then, there were no behavioral finance topics or questions, and I was shocked at how big of a portion of the exam and the material comes from behavioral finance.
Yeah.
Can you give us a real world, real life scenario how behavioral finance plays into helping somebody reach their financial goals and financial planning?
Yeah. Just look, 7% of the exam is around some type of behavioral, emotional, financial topic. Yeah, I mean, one thing that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is the emotions around investing in general. So when we look at a client's goal, typically we have a dollar amount that we expect or need at a certain period of time to be able to fund, a specific goal. For us to achieve that specific goal, we're looking to accomplish some type of rate of return. And typically a lot of these goals, they're longer term goals. So we're not looking, in most circumstances, we're not looking at doing something from an investment aspect 6 months from now, a year from now. No, it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. And so we're trying to figure out a risk-adjusted rate of return to be able to achieve over that time frame. And just like many individuals for other things, emotions come into part when you're looking at your statements, right? And you're looking at $1 million portfolio that's down, 70 basis points in one day, right? 70 basis points on $1 million is a good chunk of money, right? For one day. And so that change in value in that instance could, start a chain reaction emotionally for an individual to start questioning whether what they're doing and how they're doing it is the right decision. And then that can also start a chain reaction of, do I need to make changes? Is this the right thing? James, you said we need to have this 80-20 equity allocation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know, so-and-so could be elected president, and this could all go down the drains, right? And so, trying to have a sensible foundational philosophy with our investment process, with our planning process, and keeping clients grounded, having them understand what our process is, what we're trying to accomplish, giving them historical information without having them rely just on that, but at least provide them some comfort, and keeping them informed as much as possible on what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And along that, helping them through the emotional part of it, helping them think of the longer picture, reminding them, hey, we're not trying to accomplish this goal tomorrow, not in the next, month, but we're looking at something, way down the road. And so that's a big part of what we do.
I think it's about just tempering expectations, right? Because a lot of times individuals are wanting to make a lot of decisions based off of emotions, and they're going based off of what their friend told them, what they read in the news, or what they saw, and they're making emotional decisions. And I think that's where we come in, of trying to bring logic to it all, right? Just keep it really simple to factual information and try to get rid of all the fluff, right? And help bring them to ease of them understanding, right, that they're still going to reach their goals, or they need to do X, Y, Z to reach their goals. And just really making it more simplistic for them, I think, is part of what we do as advisors.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the profession so awesome, because there's so many calculators, there's so many softwares, and people can run these analysis and they'll spit out a recommendation. But at least the clients that we work with, they still like hearing from the advisor, hey, I know you said I have a 99% probability of reaching my goals. What do you think?
Am I still on track?
Yeah, am I still on track? Well, what does that mean? Because at the end of the day, these are just numbers, and you actually have to stay invested, stay on track, stick to the plan, and that requires a partner that will motivate you when times get really tough. And I think that's the key role of the advisor. The numbers are fun for us, but for the client, they're really relying us to make sure that we really understand who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and that any recommendation we make, it's truly for their specific situation. So
I think clients there's a level of accountability on us from clients right, as far as what we're promising and what we're trying to deliver, and in the relationship we formed, you know, there's that accountability. But we also have the accountability. We also lay accountability on the client as well too.
Yeah.
Hey, you promised me that this was what we're trying to accomplish. Don't back out, because times are tough. You know, economically we're in a tough position. Markets aren't going so great. You know, this is part of the road. We're going to go through these bumps. We're going to go through, you know, some turmoil and difficulties and things like that. But you made this commitment to me. I'm making a commitment to you, and I'm here for that accountability and providing that accountability for the client to stick to what they're going to do to try to get them to the end of the road and help them get to that goal. You know, and because we hear all the excuses, we hear
It's different
you know,
this time.
It's, you know, whatever the case may be, but you know, I mean, there's multiple studies. There's Dalbar study. There's multiple studies that have shown, you know, that individuals working with a financial professional perform, as far as portfolio performance, significantly better than individuals that don't.
Yeah.
So, so that's a piece that's you know, you really can't quantify.
Okay, so thank you. CFP board exams comprises only of 7% behavioral. What is the other 93%?
Alexis is studying for CFP currently right now, so he should know exactly what
Like if
Fresh.
somebody,
fresh.
okay,
A lot of information.
if I'm a viewer,
Yeah.
I want to do financial planning on my own, or
Right.
I might consider hiring somebody.
Mm-hmm.
What should I be doing on my own to do financial planning, or what should I look for from somebody in financial planning?
I have the 7, so we can just at least have an idea of what they are. So, professional conduct and regulation, general principles of financial planning, risk management, insurance planning, investment planning, tax planning, retirement savings and income planning, estate planning, and psychology of financial planning. So those are the 7 domains specifically.
Yeah, I think you got to know first where you are. So you got to identify your current situation. So there you're looking at your cash flow, income versus expenses, liabilities versus assets. So you got to know where you are before you even begin. And then once you know where you are, you have to identify the specific objectives that you want to accomplish, short term, mid-term, long term, and you have to prioritize. Most people have, you know, limited resources, so you have to make a decision. Which ones do I want to start with, and which ones are the most important? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to have a good grasp of where they're at, right, as far as what is available to them. What options do they have at work? What do they currently have now? What does their spouse have, right? How does that all play together? It's very common, I feel like, where couples are together and they're doing all these things in life together, but for whatever reason, when it comes to this component, well, they're doing this thing, I'm doing that thing, and they don't realize how much they actually really work together to, if they wanted to maximize this, right? If they want to be as efficient as possible, there's ways that we can maximize everything that they currently have. We just got to put it all together for them and help them get a better picture, right?
Right.
And that's the starting point. And then from there, we take off.
Man, I would say if you're interviewing financial planners or advisors, and they're making recommendations before doing a cash flow analysis, you're already in a really bad position.
What do you mean this product doesn't solve all your problems?
You're in a bad position because I'm a strong believer that planning starts with, any type of planning starts with cash flow. So if that's not a part of that first beginning process, when you're going through that interviewing process and the individual saying, okay, let's look at how much money you have coming in and how much money you have going out. And if they're making recommendations about this investment and this strategy and this, I would be very wary, very wary.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So going back to what you said, I'm going to table that for a second. We'll come back to it. But going back to what you said, you mentioned income, expenses, you said assets, liabilities. So what's a good foundation? If I heard correctly, it's cash flow statement, balance sheet.
Right.
Does the balance sheet require interest rates, balances, terms of notes, or am I good with just knowing
What payment? How much you pay?
Right. How much I'm paying monthly.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say?
I mean, it's the whole shebang. The more accurate, the better. So if you've got a liability, the interest rate, the specific interest rate that you have on it, how much you're paying, getting a little
Any
bit
terms, right? If
the
it's in a
terms,
balloon,
right?
yeah.
You're getting a little bit. We're getting a little bit ahead because down the road you're going to be making decisions whether you're hiring an advisor or doing it yourself. It sounds so simple, interest rate, but you're going to be making decisions like, am I going to pay that off ahead of time, or should I use those dollars for future goals?
He's teasing a future episode.
Do I refi it?
Do I?
Do I
There you go.
Yeah.
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 So
That's a big part of that beginning process. As much detail as possible. And we stress with clients that in the beginning stages. I think when we go through an onboarding process, one of the things I'm very adamant about is give me everything, as much data as you possibly have. It's going to help us, and it's the most tedious part. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's what puts some hesitation in a lot of clients early on as far as proceeding with the planning process.
Because you're asking them to do a lot of work, and you're
Yeah.
asking them to get a lot of things, and that's something that I always tell people. It takes some time to do this. It can take less or it can take longer, depending
Yeah.
on how quickly they get us everything.
You know, Leo just reminded me of something earlier. I mentioned it's kind of hard to articulate what is financial planning. You kind of have to experience it. But I just realized, you know, you're going to know if you're in a financial planning relationship with your financial professional if you ask the question, what should I bring? And they say, everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Guys, that is a ton of work. I'm super busy.
Right.
I have kids. I have a career. I coach some little league teams. Why do I need to bring all that stuff when Joe Schmo on such and such TV channel tells me to just max out a Roth IRA? Why do I need all that?
Because you may or may not be able to do a Roth IRA.
Ooh.
And so it just kind of goes with the simple process of, again, right?
Hold on. Unpack that. Unpack that. What do you mean?
Not everyone is eligible to make Roth IRA contributions.
How?
So there's different variables, right, that come into that, right? Income limits, retirement plans available to them. So a common scenario is one individual has a retirement account at work. They're high income earners. The other one doesn't have a retirement account available to them.
Alexis, I don't know. I make like 180 grand. I mean, I can put into a Roth, right?
It depends.
What do you mean? I just told you I make 180.
Well, what are all the other scenarios that you have in place? Are you single? Are you a W-2 employee? Do you have retirement benefits? Is that what you make? What is that the total household income?
Yeah.
And so you just kind of start walking them through these processes of figuring out what is the actual case here, right? Where do you want to do that? Okay, well, you might not be able to do it directly. There could be some other alternatives. Is that the best way of going about it? Are there other options that are more cost efficient to using your employment benefits? So going through all those little nuances with them is what I think is what we do, right? Sometimes they just have this idea, this is what I'm supposed to do because so-and-so said that. This is what my uncle said. This is what a coworker said. If you do this and you'll be fine. It doesn't work that way, right? You kind of have to walk them step by step.
I sometimes feel silly, right? Because I'll say, hey, somebody will say, I want to open a Roth IRA. I'll say, okay, can I see your tax return? What do you need that for? And then so you ask the question, well, how much do you make? Well, I don't know, like $15,000 a month. Okay, that's what hits your bank account? Yeah. Okay, so that's pre-tax, right? Because the income limits are adjusted gross income,
Right.
and that's
Right.
yours.
Yeah.
What about your spouse? Do you file jointly?
Or we
Well,
do things separate.
Right. No, we're married, but we file separately. Oh, even worse. The income limits are even lower. Like I understand it's you want it easy and straightforward, and it should be, but it just
not.
isn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then they're constantly making changes too, right? So they're making changes to the limits, they're making changes to contribution amounts, to income limits. So they're constantly making alterations and changes, right? And so what a plan that in place that we have right now might have to be altered, right? If
Right.
tax laws changes. And so that is where we come in of being able to let clients know and start making those alterations for them, keep them informed, and really just kind of start guiding them the right way without having to make it a big ordeal, right? But we're only able to do those things once we've already start with that first process of actually establishing all those guidelines that we need to get going.
Yeah. Tell me this. What do y'all think about this? I've been in this, tell me if you've been in this situation. I've asked a client some questions, right? Said, hey, I want to max out a Roth IRA. I'll start asking questions. I'll start doing some fact finding. And I kind of feel like maybe they feel like I'm prying. And then sometimes I feel like I have enough information to comfortably say, hey, you should at least max out your Roth. Yeah, I've asked enough questions in this 10-minute fact-finding thing, but ideally I'd have more information. But I feel comfortable enough saying you should at least max out a Roth, amongst other things. I don't know all
Right.
those other things, but at
Right.
least a Roth. What do y'all think about that? Do you think have you ever found yourself in that situation, and would you make that same recommendation, or do you always have to have every single piece of financial data to make an easy recommendation like that? Easy.
Ideally, right, you want to have all the information. There's some times where, just like you said at the very beginning, where people are just hectic, they're busy, they have all these other components going on. If I can identify that this is something that isn't going to adversely affect them, and it is something that, you know, may not be the best thing for them long-term wise, but it kind of gets that ball rolling, I don't have an issue making that suggestion for them. But just making sure that they understand that, hey, we still need some other things that we need to, you know, follow back up on in order to see if this is still the best route to go with long-term wise.
If we're talking Roth IRA, there's very few situations where I come across where I'm like, no, don't do a Roth IRA. Like it is, I mean, it's not
Super savings account.
It is. I hope that the individual qualifies to be able to put it to Roth. So if I can get some facts and confidently say, oh, they're eligible to participate in something like this, yeah, I don't have an issue, especially not a Roth. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in getting the ball rolling, and I think this is where your experience as a practitioner really matters, because a lot of people don't get started. One of the cool things about technology is there's a lot more tools and access now to do your own financial planning. But the problem with that is it's so overwhelming that you never get started. You know, you'll see studies all the time that people have access to a 401k plan at work with matching, yet they tend to wait 3 to 5 years to even get started. And to me, that's as simple as, I mean, that's the most awesome thing you can have. You put in money, somebody's matching you. When do I get started? Day one. But studies will show that people are usually delayed. And so when somebody's hiring us, I want to make sure I get them excited, get the ball rolling. And you know, y'all mentioned it's so tedious to gather all of that information. And so that's where you have to kind of just use your experience and give them advice. Ideally, like Alexis said, we want everything because we want it as accurate as possible and customized to you. But based on what you've given me, I can already tell you this is what you should do, you know.
Okay, I'll play along, Mr. Credo.
Thank you.
I will take the
About time.
and I will gather all this data
Right.
and I will give it to you.
Right.
Where's this data going? What are you doing with it?
That's where you're prioritizing the client's objectives. For us, we're taking that data, and depending on your what objective you're trying to accomplish, it's going to our financial planning software. Most of the time, we already have an idea of what to advise you on, but we always want it backed up by math. But most of the time, we kind of already know, based on what you're giving us, your statements, your income, your tax returns. We have a good idea where to take it already, but we want it backed by math. So it's going to our various financial planning softwares, whether it's a tax planning software, insurance planning software. That's
College planning.
College planning.
Wait,
Yep.
okay, wait. Why? So you don't have just one piece of software that does it all?
We don't have the genie, no.
No, it's that's kind of the cool thing, and kind of the negative thing about our industry. There is not one software that captures everything, and even then, we have various financial planning softwares for different objectives. But even then, not all of them captures everything if you're using all of them all at once.
Not all
Yeah.
general assumptions also
Right.
go with everything, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of user inputs to make
Yeah.
those alterations to actually tailor to
Yes.
what that individual's trying to do.
Yeah, can y'all give us some examples, like specific examples?
Yeah, so we have a big screen in our conference room, and as much as possible, we like to use it, especially when we're implementing and making recommendations, because most people are visual, so they can see it. But a lot of our recommendations, since the software can't capture it, it's actually, we still do a lot of reading. And so, for example, for business owners, we'll review y'all's buy-sell agreement and identify, one, if there's an insurance policy funding that agreement. There's not a software in the world that knows your specific buy-sell agreement, whether or not it's funded or it has as a policy. So we have to read.
Worse is they don't even have one, or they had it. They have some generic form when they created it, many years back, and so they got the business rolling, right? But just like a lot of things, right? We don't go back and recheck to make sure that things are still current, right? So.
Yeah, and in that process, we have separate software to determine an informal valuation for that business as well, too, right? So we don't the one software that we would utilize to help that business owner for certain goals and certain needs does not provide us an informal business valuation that we would need to help prepare or alter a buy-sell agreement.
Or sometimes even include other financial professionals to also make sure that we actually are reviewing everything in that, whether it be an attorney or a CPA. So even though that isn't what we do per se, but it's still part of the overall financial planning process, because some of those things can be pretty intricate, and they can have some really adverse effects if done inappropriately.
Yeah, we talked about Roth IRAs, which is usually part of retirement planning. Even a client-specific pension, there's not a software that will capture every company's or government entity's pension system. What are the specific rules? Is it age-based? You have to actually gather that data from the client and read it page by page.
Is there a cost of living adjustment?
There's a cost of living, and do a summary. You want to make it look nice and pretty because it's not captured by the software. You're doing bullet points, but that's something that you're reading as a practitioner. So.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me of a situation where somebody had some out-of-state service credits,
Yeah.
and they heard that they weren't allowed to purchase them. So I had to do the research, found out they were allowed to purchase them, then contact the old employer to get an estimate.
Yeah.
And that was all before we could answer the question, should we purchase them?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, so once you get to that point where should we, that's when our software kicks in. But
Right.
everything up until then, which I would
Right.
consider financial planning,
Yep.
was done without software.
Right.
I love when you start going through the employee benefits and you start uncovering all these auxiliary benefits that they didn't even know that they had, like after-tax contributions, what the actual matching component is, what options they have in their 401ks. You start going down some of those weeds on their HR benefits. Some of them are investment related, and some of them are healthcare related, HSA accounts. And so, you start doing these deep dives with individuals, and I want to pay less in taxes, and they think it's automatically, I just need to contribute more towards retirement accounts, and that may or may not be the best thing for them, right? HSA might be a need for them, or they might have some other benefits that are also available to them that they're just not utilizing. And so, going step by step.
Okay, this sounds awesome. So, are you all doing this for if I'm maxing out a Roth $500 a month? Are you all doing all that for me?
It depends.
You're talking about what our practice
I'm a
is?
client.
Right.
You've convinced me. I need financial planning, and
Sold.
it sounds very complicated that I don't want to do it on my own.
Right.
So I'm going to. I'll do the Roth IRA because Joe Schmo on X channel told me to do it, and I'm gonna do $500 a month. Are you going to take a look at my pension benefits? My spouse is a business owner, so you're going to review their buy-sell agreement. Are you going to?
I knew Leah was going to answer this.
Yeah, no, not for free. That's for sure. No. Yeah, I liked the fact that we have such unique flexibility in the way that we service and work with clients. So one of the cool benefits that I enjoy is the fact that individuals do not have to have a single investable dollar with us to benefit from our services, because we charge a completely different service fee just to do those financial planning services. And so if you are a individual that is getting started, wants to do some retirement planning, about to get married, or just had a child, and you have these planning goals, we can help navigate, put a plan together, a living, breathing document that organizes, structures all your goals, and start to implement that and start to keep you accountable. And you pay for that service fee. You don't have to have a single dollar invested with us. So that allows us to work with anybody that wants to get this ball rolling. So I think that's such a unique and nice way to be able to provide a service that allows you that flexibility.
I think people that come for us for financial planning typically have some sort of sense of urgency. Something's happened in their world or something happened in their life. I think it's very rare we have people just kind of doing it on their own. They're typically motivated by some sort of factor that has happened in their world, and they realize that they need to start doing something. In an ideal world, right, people would just start working and then just start coming to us right afterwards, and they'd just start planning from the get-go, and we just help them build from the ground up. That's not typically how it works. We typically are trying to rebuild a fallen building, is really what happens a lot of times, because they got all these, they're building, they're just throwing the pieces, though. They're not really building up. And so it's a work in progress, right?
I mean, that case that you had, I thought that was really interesting because it was a really great example of financial planning. There was no software or investments involved after you did the research on their pension. And so that's a project-based financial plan. She has an immediate need. She just wants you to focus on that before she can even get started in anything else, because it's top of mind, you know. And once you took care of that, then you can start focusing on other things.
Okay, so we were getting ready to wrap up, and then you dropped that on us. Can you please unpack that a little bit? Project-based, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, you know, we mentioned earlier that we want to look at everything because financial planning is holistic in nature, and you're trying to look at the pros and cons of all of your decision making. But people are busy, and some things are top of mind right now, and they want to get that accomplished before they even look at anything else. And so, for example, if a client just wants to have a better understanding of, for example, do I have enough insurance? That to us is a project-based financial plan that you want an answer if you have enough life insurance to protect your family. Just education, based on where you think your son or daughter is going or where you want them to go. How do I maximize, what do I need to do now to make sure we maximize the benefits that they're going to get if they go to that school in terms of financial aid and all of that good stuff.
I think the benefit of where we're at now is that we can charge individuals to just do a simplistic one-off task, or we can do a ongoing financial planning. And so it really just kind of depends on the individual, right? Like you said, sometimes they're in a rush, they're in a hurry, they don't have time. But again, I think we have a lot of flexibility with that. Yeah,
and I like it because it gives you a picture, at least into our firm and culture. Oh wow, you know, they have different levels of services, and if they can help me with that specific objective, I can move on to the next thing. And so you get the ball rolling, and in my opinion, you get them excited about financial planning and planning for the future. So
yeah, we're gonna unpack this on another podcast, but
yeah,
I like the idea of us almost being an ongoing consultant, right? Give me a call if an investment opportunity comes up. Let's unpack it. Give me a call if you're thinking about refinancing the mortgage. Give me a call if you're thinking about leasing or buying that car. Give me a call if you have a wedding that you have to plan and we have to start budgeting for it. All those little things, you want to have somebody there as a resource and someone that can help you reassure the decision making that you're going through with all those little different life stages and different things that occur. So,
well, I appreciate you guys' insight. You may have heard it's not about the journey, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, in this case, it's kind of about the destination. As Mr. Credo said, it's best to know where you're starting so you can figure out how to get where you're going. Yep. We appreciate y'all tuning in.
We really hope you found these tips useful and insightful.
For more videos like this, like and subscribe.
Please follow us, and we hope to see you on the next one.
See you when we see you.
The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to effect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss